So Apple has already released all of the things it's going to this year until the iPhone, at least as far as we're concerned. We know that the iPhone 12 is the next big thing coming out of Apple, and we're all still super excited about it. I mean, some more than others. Me, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I'm not real sure that I'm even going to purchase an iPhone 12 this year, but there's a lot of interesting things that have already been leaked about it and we're pretty sure about. We also know when it's, generally speaking, going to be announced, and generally speaking, what we think it's going to cost. So we're going to talk about those things, as well as some other aspects of the iPhone, including 120 hertz and 5G. I'll tell you all about it right after this.
This is, you know you listening to Travis.
What up, players? Welcome back. And for all you new people, welcome. My name's Travis and I do tech videos every single week and have a blast doing them. If that sounds like fun to you, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Anything I talk about will be in the description below. But for now, let's just get into the video. So in a couple of weeks, in the middle of October, we expect an announcement of the iPhone 12, 12 Pro, 12 Pro Max, all the things where we're going to find out things that, we pretty much know the vast majority of everything. I mean, almost everything. And we also know the price, or at least we think we do. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But what's interesting is, since the delay of the iPhone 12 has kind of put us in this weird situation where we actually know about the actual processor of the phone before we know about the phone, and of course the operating system, iOS 14, we know even more about the phone than we normally would. Like every year is a little bit different, where they release the phone at the same time that they tell us about the processor. Let's real quick talk about what was just announced by Apple with the iPad Air. For the first time in years, a new processor has been announced with an iPad rather than with the iPhone. This is a big deal because this only happened because of the delay to the iPhone. We should have already heard about the iPhone 12, and some of you should probably have them in hand. I think it would have been this week. But because of the Corona delay, here we are. I mean, well, not only the Corona delay, there's all types of things that are apparently going on with the iPhone 12. A big feature, which a lot of people seem to really want, has been said to be in and then out, and then in and then out, and now we think it's out. And that is 120 hertz refresh display. Now in 2020, your flagship phone, generally speaking, needs to have two things: high refresh rate and 5G. And the iPhone looks like it's only going to have one of those two. Fortunately for Apple, their fan base and their user base probably won't care. Not only will they probably won't care, they probably don't know what 120 hertz is either. Now, I'm not talking about the people watching this YouTube video that go to YouTube and watch tech videos and know what all that stuff is, but I'm talking about everyone else that walks around town with an iPhone, some of which with still iPhone 6s and 7s. You've seen them. You know they don't know what 120 hertz is, and I guarantee they don't care. So it actually makes sense to me that while Apple is trying to push their product and get more specs out of it, they don't actually have to, because their user base is going to be kind of indifferent to it. Now, when Apple eventually does come out with it, they're going to make it seem like they invented the damn thing. I mean, they do that all the time, and their customers will eat it up. They'll just think that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, despite the fact that Android's had it for years previous. Listen, at this point, that part doesn't even matter, because the iPhone still pushes forward with things that the overall industry needs. LiDAR sensor is going to be really interesting, because if they can do something good with this, you are going to start to see that on a lot of Android phones, probably starting next year. This happens all the time, and I point it out every single year. Apple just makes things, I don't know, like legitimate when they put them into their phones, even if it seems silly. Wireless charging was on Android phones for years, but you didn't start seeing them in a lot of restaurants and stores and public places until after the iPhone got it. I don't know what to say about that. It's the truth. I didn't make that up. It's a real thing. So the LiDAR scanner, which may do some really cool things in AR for the iPhone, are probably going to end up on Android phones next year, much the same way that the notch showed up on a bunch of Android phones for no apparent reason. Like the notch was a compromise, but for whatever reason, some manufacturers decided to take that and think it's some type of amazing feature. It's not. So while the iPhone looks like it's going to be announced here in the middle of October and released sometime in early November, and the pricing structure is really interesting depending on who you believe, what I find really compelling about this is how Apple's strategy has gone completely counter to what Samsung's strategy was this year. Like, I just got the Galaxy Fold 2, I think it was $2,000. All their flagship phones this year were over $1,000. According to many leakers, Apple's going to have a couple of devices under $1,000 this year. And like I've been saying for a while, $1,000 is kind of the tipping point for anything that's, I don't know, the thing's got to be really bleeding edge. After that, like most of the stuff we don't need. Let's be honest, we don't need half this stuff on our smartphones. We don't have to pay no $300 extra to have 12 more megapixels for a camera that you're going to use for Instagram, which ain't got hardly no kind of megapixels in it anyway. Let's be serious here. Why is everyone fighting with me on this? Stop it. But what is really compelling to me is the fact that Apple's willing to come out with a new technology for them, 5G, and perhaps put that in an under $1,000 phone, especially with the overall industry kind of trending upwards. This is actually a savage play right here. If they're able to get out a sub $800 iPhone with 5G, it will be the #1 selling phone in the world again. The year before with the iPhone XR, I mean, and those phones, if you look at the specs, aren't particularly amazing. And that's the point. Apple doesn't need to have top tier specs to have the #1 spot in smartphone sales. So to be honest, 120 Hz isn't gonna hurt at all. If you buy the top end iPhone, are you gonna be upset that you didn't get 120 Hz? I mean, sure, why not? But I've had the iPad Pro for a couple of years, which does have ProMotion, the 120 Hz. And I don't even see it anymore. Like, I guess it's still there. They could have turned it off and I wouldn't even know. Now, this is no excuse. I think Apple should continue to push forward. If everyone else can get this to work, you would think Apple could. And at this point, we've seen software builds that have had the option for 120 Hz. So they're obviously working on it. And if they pull it at the last second, that's kind of disappointing. But the reality is this is not going to change the way you use your iPhone. Most people who use iPhones look for something that's solid, that's going to work all the time. And they don't need anything high performance like that. Like, is that really going to make your life any better? Yes, they should absolutely have it. Yes, it's a miss if they don't get it out this year. But so what? I gotta be honest, in using the Z Fold 2 at 120 Hz, I sometimes barely notice. I think the real optimization is with the operating system and 120 Hz. This is why I was so impressed with 90 Hz on the OnePlus 7 Pro a year ago. It wasn't just the 90 Hz, and I actually said this in these videos. It's that and the optimization of the snappy OS. Once you put those two things together, it's magical. And I think it really comes down to speed. Now, while all the phones that have been out over the last couple of years have been fast, and the 855 was across all the flagships of last year, the operating system, Oxygen OS, on OnePlus phones is snappy as heck. It is super fast. And even when I had the Note and turned down the animations, which by the way, I shouldn't have to do, I mean, it was kind of fast, but it never felt as fast or as smooth. And that's where the 90 Hz display came in. Most importantly, apps opened fast. The fingerprint sensor opened fast. Everything I did on this thing opened fast, and it became a joy to use. The 90 Hz display, awesome. Smooth as butter, great. But if the operating system wasn't optimized in the way that it is, then the 90 Hz wouldn't make a difference. It would make no difference at all. But when you add them together, the experience becomes intoxicating. So for me, this phone is going to be a little bit more of the same, except for the look. It's got a little boxier look, kind of the iPhone 5-ish look. I'm not sure that I'm down with that. I kind of like the smooth edge, almost kind of, I'm not sure I like the boxy look. What do you think? Leave me a comment below. Does that look good for you? Is that a good look? I don't know. Anyway, looks like Apple may actually be working on a folding phone, which is kind of crazy. I'll leave that video here. And I got some other videos down here you might want to check out. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again real soon. Peace and love.